Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Today we're going to be looking at a book called 100 Deadly Skills.
Oh yeah.
It's written by Clint Emerson, who is a retired Navy SEAL
hmm
and former NSA operative. So this is going to be a deep dive into sort of the world of espionage and survivalism.
hmm
But before we get into all that, I want to ask you what comes to mind when you hear the words like prepping or survival?
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's like the stereotypical thing is maybe stockpiling food,
Yeah.
supplies, maybe heading for the woods.
Right. Like hunkering down.
Right. Having a bunker.
But 100 Deadly Skills kind of flips that on its head a bit
Yeah.
and introduces us to the concept of the violent nomad,
Right.
who is someone who is ready to face any threat,
hmm
is prepared to blend in and use whatever's at hand to survive.
Yeah. It's all about adaptability.
So the book actually starts with the concept of everyday carry, or EDC,
hmm
which I think is interesting because it goes beyond like your typical flashlight or multi-tool.
Yeah. And he really emphasizes anonymity.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe some of the stuff he has in there, like a zebra pen.
A pen.
Like a zebra pen, yeah.
What do you do with that?
You can use it as a weapon in a pinch.
Oh, okay.
And then Bibles.
Okay.
You can use those for body armor.
Bibles for body armor.
You can tape them together.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It really emphasizes that idea of resourcefulness,
Yeah,
using what you have at hand.
absolutely.
And I think that extends to even the wardrobe choices. Like, he recommends neutral colors,
Right.
no flashy logos,
Yep.
especially when traveling.
Yeah, keep a low profile.
So speaking of travel,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about infiltration.
Okay.
100 Deadly Skills has some pretty wild ways that a violent nomad might actually cross enemy borders.
Oh, yeah. We're talking like being dropped into the ocean from a helicopter.
Okay.
A technique called helo casting,
Wow.
or using a wingsuit
Oh, wow.
to infiltrate by air, and then melting the evidence.
Melting the evidence.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
But the book also covers more traditional land infiltration techniques,
Right.
which is where a lot of these survival skills become really important.
Okay.
Imagine trekking through a desolate landscape,
Yeah.
navigating by the stars and the moon,
Mm.
building improvised shelters even from snow.
That's pretty hardcore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he really emphasizes understanding lunar cycles,
Oh, that's interesting.
knowing when you have the most and least visibility is crucial.
Wow. That's a good point.
Okay, so we've got our gear.
Okay.
We've infiltrated enemy territory.
Now what?
You might need a place to lay low.
Oh.
Now, a lot of people might think hotels, but
But there are some hidden dangers there.
yeah, exactly.
He points out that hotels, especially in developing nations or areas with heightened surveillance, can be risky.
Okay.
Staff could be bribed. Rooms can be bugged.
Security might not be as tight as you think.
So what do you do?
Well, he's got a really clever trick for reinforcing a hotel room door with an improvised bar.
Oh, okay.
You just need a sturdy piece of wood or metal and something to wedge it against the frame.
Would you have thought of that?
It's a pretty simple but effective way to create an extra layer of security.
So using everyday objects to your advantage.
Exactly.
I like that.
And he also talks about hiding data in plain sight,
Okay.
places like air vents or the underside of drawers.
Okay, so thinking outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of thinking outside the box, let's move on to improvised weapons.
Okay, let's get to the action.
Right.
What kind of things are we talking about here?
Well, he really emphasizes that the best weapon is one that you have access to when you need it.
Right.
And that doesn't raise suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
So something as simple as a tightly rolled up newspaper can deliver a surprisingly powerful blow.
Really?
Yeah.
I never would have thought of that.
Or how about a fishing weight attached to a bandana?
Oh, like a medieval flail. And then there's the modified umbrella.
Okay.
We're not talking about Mary Poppins here.
Right.
This umbrella is weighted with wrenches and zip-tied for extra heft.
Okay. That sounds a little less inconspicuous.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you'd carry around on a sunny day.
Yeah.
But in a dangerous situation, it could be a lifesaver.
Yeah.
And he even covers how to make a makeshift silencer
Oh, wow.
from a water bottle and a scouring pad.
A scouring pad. Okay, so again, just using everyday items.
It's pretty incredible what you can do with ordinary stuff.
It is.
But Of course, we're not condoning violence here.
Of course not.
This is all purely for informational purposes.
Absolutely, knowledge is power.
Right.
And understanding these techniques can be valuable even if you never have to use them.
Right.
So it's better to have it and not need it
Exactly.
than need it and not have it.
All right. So speaking of knowledge.
Let's move on to the world of surveillance and counter-surveillance.
Okay, getting into the spy stuff now.
Yeah, so this is all about becoming a ghost. How to avoid being followed and how to spot if you are being watched.
Right.
So how do you even know if you're being followed?
Well, he uses the acronym TED-DELEE.
TED-DELEE,
Yeah.
to describe the process of confirming surveillance, time, environment, distance, and demeanor.
Okay, break that down for me.
So it's about looking for patterns and inconsistencies that might indicate someone is watching you.
Give me an example.
Let's say you're walking down the street and you notice the same car has passed you a few times.
Okay.
Or someone keeps appearing in your vicinity even though they don't seem to have a reason to be there.
Yeah.
That's when you need to start paying attention.
So it's not about being paranoid, it's about being observant.
Exactly, trusting your gut if something feels off.
Yeah, and it's not just about people watching you, right?
Right.
What about technology?
Absolutely. Tracking devices are becoming more and more sophisticated.
But he shares some surprisingly low-tech ways to detect them.
Okay.
For example, did you know you can use an AM radio to detect a tracking device in your car?
No way! How does that work?
You just tune the radio to a static frequency
Uh-huh.
and listen for a clicking sound.
That indicates a cellular signal.
Oh, wow.
It's like a DIY bug sweeper.
That's pretty cool.
It is.
Like something out of a spy movie?
Right.
Drill us.
Well, there's physical clamming.
Clamming.
Yeah.
It's a technique for copying keys.
Okay.
Using something as simple as a bar of soap.
A bar of soap.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly effective,
Wow.
especially for older locks.
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing.
And then there's also Tor the Anonymity Network.
Right.
Allows for secure communications.
Yep, he even talks about leveraging free Wi-Fi hotspots.
Okay.
With the right precautions.
So being mindful of your digital footprint.
Exactly. In today's world, digital security is just as important as physical security.
So it sounds like this violent nomad is a master of disguise.
Yeah.
Blending in both physically and digitally.
Right.
But what happens when things go wrong?
What if you're detected?
That's where escape and evasion come in.
Okay, let's talk about that.
What are some of the key principles of escape and evasion?
Well, first and foremost, you need a bug-out route.
Right.
A pre-planned escape route that you've memorized
Okay.
and can follow even in the dark.
So you're not just running away. You have a plan.
Exactly. He emphasizes knowing your environment.
Having multiple options planned out.
Yep.
And here's a piece of advice that might surprise you.
Sure.
In a car crash, the 12 o'clock steering position is actually the most dangerous.
Really, why is that?
It's because of airbag deployment.
Okay.
In a collision, your arms will be propelled directly into your face if you're holding the wheel at 12 o'clock.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, so the book recommends a 9 and 3 or 8 and 4 hand position
Okay.
to minimize injury.
So I've always thought 12 o'clock was the safest.
It's a common misconception.
Yeah.
Okay, this next topic is a little bit scary, but I think it's important to discuss.
Abduction attempts.
It's a chilling thought, but it's a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And he delves into the mental preparedness needed to survive. Uh-huh.
So how to create slack in restraints if you're captured.
Right.
Using subtle movements and the environment to your advantage.
Exactly.
So even in a situation like that, there are things you can do.
Absolutely. Never give up hope. Always look for an opportunity.
Wow, this is all pretty intense.
But it's also empowering in a way.
It is.
It makes you realize that there's so much more to survival than just stockpiling supplies.
Right.
It's about being resourceful, adaptable, and mentally strong.
Got it.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
We've got a lot more to cover.
We haven't even gotten to the bonus skills yet.
Right, stay tuned for that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break.
But when we come back, we'll dive even deeper into the world of 100 deadly skills.
So don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to our deep dive into 100 deadly skills.
Before the break, we were talking about escape and evasion and the mental strength it takes to survive something like an abduction.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not just about physical strength.
It's about outsmarting your captors. It's almost like psychological warfare.
Yeah.
Emerson talks about appearing compliant, even helpless,
Oh, okay.
to lull them into a false sense of security.
Right, to make them think you're not a threat.
So playing the victim can actually be a tactic,
It can be, yeah,
but at the same time, you're always looking for a way to turn the tables.
to escape.
Right.
So we talked about some restraint defeating skills, like zip ties, duct tape. What about handcuffs?
Those seem pretty foolproof?
Well, Not necessarily. He actually describes a technique using a seatbelt tongue.
Wait, the little metal part
Yeah.
that you click into the seatbelt?
Yep, that's the one.
All about knowing the weak points of the handcuffs
Okay.
and using leverage to your advantage.
So if you're ever in the unfortunate situation of being handcuffed in a vehicle,
Look for that seatbelt tongue.
exactly, it could save you.
And even if you can't escape immediately,
Okay.
he recommends repositioning your hands along your waistline so they're
Oh.
not behind your back.
Right, so you can maybe use reflections to get a better look at the situation
Okay.
and plan your escape.
Exactly.
It's all about staying calm, thinking strategically.
That's right.
He also talks about understanding your captor's mindset.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Are they professionals? Are they amateurs? What motivates them?
Knowing your enemy.
Right.
And sometimes counterintuitively building rapport with your captors
Oh, okay.
can make you less of a target.
It can humanize yourself,
Yeah.
make yourself more than just a victim.
So like striking up a conversation,
Yeah. Finding some common ground.
showing them that you're a person too.
I like it.
So we've got the physical tactics.
We've got the psychological strategies.
Mhm.
Now let's talk about disappearing completely,
Okay.
like becoming a ghost.
Yeah, vanishing without a trace.
That sounds a lot easier said than done.
It definitely takes work. It requires meticulous planning, minimizing your digital and physical footprints.
So, like burner phones,
Yeah.
anonymous email accounts.
It disguises.
Yeah. It's like stepping into a spy novel.
It is, and these are techniques used by, intelligence operatives, people who need to stay off the grid.
It's pretty intense.
There's a section in the book that I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
And it's about disposing of a body.
Of course, we're not condoning any illegal activity here,
Of course not.
but it's in the book, so let's talk about it.
Okay.
Just from an informational standpoint.
Right.
So he describes techniques like thermal burial,
Uh-huh.
which is essentially cremating a body in a drum of jet fuel.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty intense,
He also covers maritime burial.
where the body is weighted and sunk to the ocean floor.
It's a chilling reminder
It is.
of the dark side of this world,
Yeah,
but it's important to be aware of.
right,
And, hopefully avoid those kinds of situations in the first place.
right.
Okay, let's move on to something a little lighter.
Okay.
Like escaping from a hotel room using bed sheets.
Oh, yeah, the classic sheet rope escape.
I've seen that in movies.
But does that actually work?
It can work.
He stresses choosing a room with a king-size bed
Oh.
for maximum sheet length
Right.
and finding a sturdy anchor point like a radiator or something.
And square knots, right?
Square knots are important.
Because those are the ones that tighten under pressure.
Exactly.
I'm not sure I'd be brave enough to try it myself.
Me neither.
But it's good to know it's an option.
Right.
Okay. What about something a little more down to earth, like surviving a car crash?
Okay.
We talked about hand positioning on the steering wheel,
Uh-huh.
but he also covers what to do immediately after a crash.
Right, checking for injuries, making sure the scene is safe.
And if you're trapped,
Probably you do.
he describes techniques for breaking windows
Okay.
and even escaping through the trunk.
The trunk?
Yeah, some cars have release levers inside the trunk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's good to know in case you need to get out that way.
So from escaping hotel rooms to surviving car crashes, this book really does cover a lot of ground.
It does. It really does.
It's all about being prepared for anything. That's right. So we've talked a lot about the physical skills,
Mm-hmm.
but what about mental toughness?
Yeah, that's a crucial part of it,
Staying calm and focused under pressure.
is what separates survivors from victims.
So controlling your emotions, making rational decisions, even when you're scared.
Exactly. He calls it developing a warrior mindset.
Yep.
Discipline, resilience, a willingness to face your fears.
That's right.
And that's something you can train for.
You can absolutely.
There are visualization techniques, breathing exercises, even meditation.
So it's about being mentally strong
Uh-huh.
as well as physically prepared.
You got it.
Now, this next skill might surprise you,
Okay.
but understanding the basics of electronics is incredibly important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What do electronics have to do with survival?
Well, technology plays a huge role in both security and surveillance.
He talks about installing and detecting listening devices, cameras, tracking devices.
So it's about using technology to your advantage,
Right.
but also being aware of how it can be used against you.
Exactly. He covers techniques for creating improvised listening devices with everyday items.
Building hidden cameras.
Wow. I'm starting to feel like I need to take notes.
There's a lot to learn.
It is.
So from hand-to-hand combat to spy gadgets.
This book really is a pretty comprehensive guide to survival in the modern world.
It is, and it's a testament to human ingenuity
Yeah.
and, our adaptability as a species.
That's right.
So before we move on,
I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways that have stood out to you so far?
well, for me, it's the emphasis on blending in,
Yeah.
maintaining a low profile,
Right.
and being prepared for anything,
Mm-hmm.
using your wits and whatever resources are available to you to survive.
Exactly. What about you?
I'm with you on that.
I'm also struck by the focus on mental toughness,
Yeah.
that warrior mindset.
Yeah, that's something we can all benefit from.
Absolutely.
It's not just about surviving in, extreme situations,
Right.
but it's about being a warrior in all aspects of life.
Yeah. Facing our fears and overcoming challenges.
Okay, so are you ready for the final part of our deep dive?
I am.
We're going to delve into some more of those bonus skills and wrap things up.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into 100 deadly skills.
It's been quite the journey learning about everything from turning a pen into a weapon
Yeah,
to escaping through a car trunk.
it's been wild.
It has been.
So before we wrap up, there's one more element we got to talk about,
Okay.
and that is situational awareness.
Right. That's come up a few times, but it really is crucial.
It is.
What does situational awareness really mean in a survival context?
It's about being constantly aware of your surroundings,
Okay.
paying attention to the people around you, noticing anything that seems out of place or unusual.
So not walking around with your head in the clouds,
Right.
being present, observant, alert.
He calls it developing a sixth sense for danger,
Yeah.
like Spider-Man.
Well, maybe not quite like that.
All right.
But it's about training your mind to notice those subtle cues and patterns.
Okay.
Reading body language, interpreting environmental signals, trusting your gut instinct.
So like that example you gave earlier, seeing the same car circling the block
Right.
or someone appearing near you multiple times.
Exactly.
Red flags.
Those are the subtle signs that something might be wrong.
But it goes beyond just like the threat assessment stuff, right?
Right.
It's about being aware of your surroundings in general.
It is. Like
What kind of things?
knowing the layout of the environment,
Okay.
identifying potential escape routes, being aware of resources that might be available to you.
So if you're in a building, knowing where the exits are
Exactly.
or where a fire extinguisher is.
Or even something you could use as a weapon.
Okay.
That's a lot to keep track of.
It is, but it becomes second nature with practice.
Okay, so how do we get better at this?
He recommends practicing mindfulness techniques,
Okay.
paying attention to your senses, actively scanning your environment.
And it's helpful to play out what-if scenarios in your head.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So like mentally rehearsing what you would do if
Right.
you were confronted or if you had to escape from a burning building.
Exactly. That mental preparation can make a huge difference.
So would you say that situational awareness is like the foundation for all these other skills?
It is, yeah. It's the cornerstone of personal security and self-defense.
It's not just about reacting to danger.
It's about anticipating and avoiding it.
You got it.
I'm going to be much more aware of my surroundings from now on.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
It's a skill that can benefit anyone.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into 100 deadly skills.
It's been intense, eye-opening, and I'll admit, a little bit scary at times.
It has been a wild ride.
But also empowering.
Definitely.
It shows you what you're capable of.
Yeah, we have the potential to be resourceful, adaptable, resilient.
Absolutely.
It's not about living in fear.
But about being prepared, knowing your capabilities, trusting your instinct. Right.
And never giving up hope.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So if you're interested in learning more about this world of espionage and survival,
We highly recommend checking out 100 Deadly Skills for yourself.
it's a fascinating read.
It is.
And remember, knowledge is power.
The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to face whatever challenges life throws your way.
That's right.
So until next time, stay safe, stay curious.
And keep on learning.